You ever wake up from a dream and have that weird moment of, wait, was that me? You know the feeling. You're still you, but maybe you're also a secret agent, or you suddenly speak fluent French, or you're just living a completely different life. It's one of those bizarre, totally universal human things, and it actually points to a really deep puzzle about who we even are. So, yeah, let's get into it. I mean, really think about it for a second. In your dreams, you've got your memories, you've got your feelings, but your identity. It can stretch, it can shift, it can completely transform. You might be watching from the sidelines, or you might be the main character, or you might be someone else entirely. So who is that person really? And what in the world does that say about the you who's listening to this right now? Right, because in our day-to-day life, our sense of self feels pretty solid, right? It's continuous. We feel like the same person from one moment to the next. But the second we fall asleep and start dreaming, poof, that stability can just vanish. And this contrast, it's not just some weird quirk of being asleep. Nope. It's actually a massive clue that our identity might not be the fixed, solid thing we think it is. Okay, so to crack this mystery, we first have to get a handle on how we usually define the self. Scientists and psychologists have a few standard ways of looking at this, and these are going to be our first clues in this whole investigation. So on one side, you've got psychology. It's focused on the what of you. Your personality, your role as a friend or an employee, that inner voice that's always narrating everything. And then on the other side, you have neuroscience, which is looking for the where. It's literally mapping out the brain networks like the default mode network, which is basically the brain's me network that fire up whenever we think about ourselves. Now, both of these are absolutely crucial, but neither one really explains why our identity can get so bendy in our dreams. So yeah, the standard clues just aren't cutting it. We're missing a piece of the puzzle. So let's explore a more, radical idea. It's called the background knowledge model, or BKM for short. And it suggests that our self isn't a fixed thing at all, but something way, way more dynamic. The BKM idea proposes that your I is actually a virtual self. Think about it like this. It's not some file saved on your brain's hard drive. It's more like your avatar in a video game, a functional projection that your brain is constantly, continuously generating from all its background noise and activity. It's a process, not a finished product. So how does your brain build this virtual self? Well, according to this model, it's held up by three main pillars. First, there's the neural background. You can think of this as the raw static, the constant hum of activity in your brain. Second, you have memory scaffolds. These are your key personal memories, the things that create your life story and give you a sense of continuity. And third, you have belief denial columns. I love this one. They're like these little mental bouncers at the door of your identity, making sure only information that fits your self-story gets in. This quote really just nails it. The I, the self, isn't static. It's a dynamic projection. See, in our waking life, it feels stable because it's being constantly reinforced by our belief systems and all the input from our senses. But in a dream, when all that sensory feedback is gone, well, that's when the projection gets really creative. But here's the thing. Our identity doesn't exist in a vacuum. A huge part of knowing who I am is based on how my brain creates a model of others. And this is where the BKM model gives us another super crucial tool for our investigation. It turns out our brains model two different kinds of others. First, you have fixed others. These are the stable, non-negotiable anchors in our lives. Think of your mother, or maybe a major historical or religious figure. Their identity is set in stone. But then you have variable others. Strangers in a crowd, characters in a book, or, those shifting figures in our dreams. Their identities are totally flexible. And this distinction is absolutely key. This chart kind of puts it all together. Look, when we're awake, our I is stable and constrained. But check out what happens during REM sleep. That's prime time for dreaming. Our sense of I becomes fluid and shifting. It starts interacting with this wild mix of fixed anchors and totally variable characters. Your brain is basically running these crazy simulations, and you are the main character in a story that's literally being written on the fly. Okay, I get it. This whole idea of a fixed yet variable self might sound a little out there. So to see how it actually works, let's look at a really powerful, real-world example. It's one that shows how a single identity can be both a stable anchor and incredibly fluid, just like our self in a dream. Get ready for this number. This is the number of different names, titles, and apparitions that had been attributed to one single historical figure, the Virgin Mary. Over 1,100. That's insane, right? How is that even possible for one identity? You've got Our Lady of Guadalupe in Mexico, Our Lady of Lourdes in France, Our Lady of Fatima in Portugal. Each name points back to the same core individual, but each one carries with it a totally unique local culture, a different story, sometimes even a different appearance. It's like a different flavor of the exact same core identity.
And this is a perfect real-world example of a fixed other. The core identity of Mary, Mother of Jesus, spiritual intercessor, that's the stable anchor. But her variable traits are what allow her identity to adapt and connect with different cultures. Now here's the crucial point. One identity can be both stable and fluid at the same time. And that is exactly what's happening to our identity in a dream. The core you is the anchor, but all the details can become wildly variable.
So here's the key insight. Just like the name Our Lady of Guadalupe anchors a very specific version of Mary's identity, our own names, the labels we use for ourselves, our self-image, all of these act as cognitive anchors for our own virtual self. They are the tools our brain uses to build a stable I, even when the process underneath it all is incredibly dynamic. So, after all that, what does this mean for that strange person you meet in your dreams? Let's connect all the pieces and get to the final reveal. And here it is. Your sense of self, whether you're wide awake or deep in a dream, isn't a solid, unchanging fact stored somewhere in your head. It's an emergent story. It's a continuous narrative that your brain is telling itself, built from memory, background neural noise, and the anchors of names and labels. During the day, that story is a pretty stable biography. At night, it becomes an improvisational fantasy. But either way, it's all a story. Which, of course, brings us to the final and most important question. Because this isn't just about dreams or neuroscience. This is about you. If your I is an ongoing story that your brain is creating in this very moment, what kind of story is it telling? And maybe more importantly, what role are you going to play in writing the next chapter?